Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. Yes, I'm back in the workshop after my little trip to London. You may have seen I saw Back to the Future the musical again. But anyway, what we actually have today is the Knight Rider build from FanHome. So I've pulled over the bits that I believe we're going to need today. So we're going to need the shell because we're working on the headlights. We're going to need the front bumper because we're working on the other fog lights. We need the motor because we're going to be placing that in for the headlights. And we need the cable for the fog lights, which is labeled R, I think. Yep. So, got all those bits. So, we're going to get cracking on with those. And I've heard this is a bit of a fiddly one. So, without further ado, let's get building. Right, so issue 79 we're kicking off with. So again, tells you a bit about one of the episodes. Ski mode. Brilliant idea, that one. And as you can see, this is what we are going to be working on today. So we've got the front end here, and we've got the gearing mechanism to work out. We're going to be placing that into the front and tidying up a few of the wires, and hopefully by the end of it, the headlights work. And as I said, I have heard that this is a little bit of a fiddle. So let's get into it and see what we've got. Right, so here we have the parts. So we've got all the rod mechanism, we've got a little gear, we've got a couple of bits in a box we've got here, including 3 springs, which I'm just going to try and get out. So we've got 3 springs there and a couple of brackets. And we've got some AM, GM and AP screws. So it looks like the first thing we're going to be doing is placing this gear onto this bar. Now it does have a D-shaped pattern, and you'll notice that half the bar is also D-shaped. So it will only go on one way around. However, it does go with this little nub facing that way. It does seem to stop just where that hole is. Doesn't go any further than that. Although from looking at the instructions, we might need to just force that along a little bit. There we go. Because we need to be able to see this hole just here. And that's where our first screw is going to go, which is an AM screw. So I'll just push that along a little bit further. It's quite a tight fit, so that's definitely not going to move. But we just need to put an AM screw in there. I presume that's just to stop it from coming back the other way. Although, to be fair, I don't think it would. And I am just dipping that into a bit of oil. And it's going to go in from the flat side. And we're not screwing any parts in, it's just a placeholder, I believe. That's just going to stop that from ever moving along the shaft again. Right, we're then going to get the other part to mirror that one. And again, the same D-shaped pattern, so it can only go on one way around. And that's just going to push into there. We've got a hole at this end, and we're going to use another AM screw to secure that in place. So we just need to make sure that that lines up with the hole in the bar. So that's in there just like that. That's flush with that end there. Just going to move these parts out of the way for a moment because we need to bring over the frame and we need to flip it upside down. I'm going to make sure these wires are out of the way for a moment. And the area we're concentrating on is this section here. So we've got these little lugs here, and that's where this is going to go. It does say that you can put a little bit of lubrication on these points here just to ensure that this moves smoothly. And I think, having seen some trouble that people have had, I will do that. So I'm just going to use a cotton swab with a little bit of WD-40 on it. Just give it a little bit of lubrication. Just like that. And then this piece is going to go in here. We've got this little notch here, and that's going to line up with this one here, like so. We then need these two brackets. They are labelled left and right, although they do look identical to me. I'm sure there is probably some sort of difference. And now obviously that would be left and right as the car's going forward. So in this case, this is the left, this is the right. And they are just going to go over these sections here, and they're going to be held in by 2 GM screws each. Now they are in there just like that. Just make sure that you haven't tightened them too much so that this bar can still move freely, as you can see there. Just going to move the car body to one side for a moment, because now we need these brackets and a couple of these springs. Now these brackets are labelled left and right, and as you can see they are opposite shapes, and they just have a little denotation just at the top there, if you can see that. Right, so we've got a couple of springs, and we're going to be placing them just in there like that, and we're going to secure that in place with an AP screw, and we're going to do that on both sides. Just putting the screw through the spring and then into that section there. Now I don't know quite which direction that needs to go in, so I'm actually going to just leave that loose, and if need be I can tighten it up later. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, screw through the spring, and screwed in there. And again, I've left that fairly loose so it can move around a little bit. Right, so we're going to concentrate on the right hand side first. So with the headlight in the up position, we're going to place that just on there. We're going to secure that with a GM screw on there, and then the spring is going to go on the edge of this little nub that you can see just on the edge of the headlight there, and we're going to use an AP screw to secure that in place there. So I'm going to fix this in place with a GM screw first. Right, so that bracket is now attached to there, as you can see. Now I'm not sure how I'm going to show you this bit, but basically we've got this edge of the headlight just here. Maybe if I raise it up like this. So on here, got the headlight nub. The spring is just going to go and attach to that edge of the headlight. and we're going to use an AP screw to screw through the spring and into the headlight. Right, so I've got it going through the spring. That's just lightly going into the headlight. Hopefully you can see that. So that's now screwed into the headlight like that. So we've got this spring mechanism now that's working on the headlight. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Actually, before we do that, what they want us to do is take this spring and pass it behind this rod here. They say to use some pliers, however what I'm going to do, I've got this little spudger and that works absolutely perfectly like that. So as you can see, the root of the spring now is going behind that spring rod, and you can probably see that that is now making the headlight much springier. This is quite a loose spring, so one of these is brilliant, or just a blunt stick will work absolutely fine. If you've done anything with Mike Lane, he might have given you one of these if you've done the carpet mod. I know certainly one came with me, but I have plenty of these because they're brilliant for opening devices, and I do a lot of device fixing, so I've got loads of these around. Right, now we're going to do the same on this side. So again, we've got our bracket. This one's obviously labelled L. We've got the nub again and the screw hole. So we're going to line those up, screw this into the headlight, and then pass the spring behind the rod. So GM screw going in. Just like that. I think leaving that screw loose for that spring is making this job much easier. So again, with the AP screw, we need to place that through the spring and into the side of the headlight, and then we'll tighten that one up. Again, these don't really need to be that tight, they're just there to hold the spring in place. So again, I'm leaving that a little bit loose. And again, just using my little spudger, I'm going to lift that rod and pull the spring around behind that rod. So theoretically, this will now operate the headlights, and it will spring back down. Just like that. And that is all there is to do in that stage. Now, I've seen people say that these headlights don't quite line up and things, so I will just grab the bonnet. And we can just do a quick alignment check. So these look absolutely perfect to me. They are sitting right in line with the bonnet, as you can see there. So I'm really happy with that. And let's just manually move that gear. Okay, so it looks like this one is catching a little bit. So that's probably something to have a look at a little bit later. And try and work out why that's catching. It looks like it's catching on the edge of the bonnet. So that might need just a slight tweak and realign. But without the bonnet in place, they are all working absolutely perfectly. Right, so that's the end of that stage. So we'll move on to the next one. Right, stage 80. Night in retreat. And again, still concentrating on this front section here. I'm going to need the motor, as I said earlier. And then we're going to do some bit of cable tidy and make sure that they are all going out the correct way. And it looks like they want us to test it as well. Right, so these are the parts we get. Apologise if you can hear any rain noises. I've left sunny London and I've come to a very wet workshop today. But anyway, these are the parts we get. So we've got a couple of small brackets. We have this piece and this piece. I think all this pretty much covers the motor and the cable ties. So I've also grabbed the motor, as I said, which is one of the first things we need to do. I'm going to place those just over there for a moment and out of the way. So we've got some AM, UM and GM screws as well. I'm going to bring over the shell again, and we've got the motor, and it's going to sit in here. It looks like it can only go narrow end down. It has said to make sure that the rods are in the, or the lights are in the down position. So we place that in there. We're then going to place this cover over the top. Like so. And we're also going to place its cover over. And they're going to share that same hole, or those two holes there. And we're going to place two UM screws through those two holes. Those are quite long screws, as you can see. Just grabbing one of the UM screws through both of those parts. And then the other one. And then we're putting a GM screw just through this one here. So it's that metal piece that's held that plastic piece in place like that. Right, we now need to do a bit of cable tidying. And it looks like that this one will come around this little bracket here, and then along the end of here. We're going to follow this same cable along here too, and we'll just make sure the headlight has enough slack on it, which it does. So I'm just going to pull that like that, and again that's definitely still working, so that's perfect. And to just hold those in place, we've got one of these little L brackets. That's just going to go in there, and we're going to secure that with an AM screw. And then we have this one, which will go across both of these cables with another couple of AM screws in a moment. And then we have this bracket, which has two holes. It looks like we're only using one screw to hold it in place, and that's probably because you can't actually get to that screw hole anymore. So I'm just going to place that over there. And again, just another AM screw will hold this in place. Like like so. So we've got the grey cable and the green and red cable coming through that section, and we've just got the grey and black cable that's coming through that one there. Now we do have a sticker or two, and we're going to again run those cables along there, and we're going to put a sticker over here. That's just going to stick them just there. Like so. Make sure that's nicely stuck down. I have just realised I've missed this clip that I just need to put in, and that's just going to go here. Again, another AM screw is going to hold that one in place. Like so. And then the cables are going to trail out through this gap here, and they're going to come round to the side, and we're going to use the other sticky label to just place across there and hold that in place. So that's those just secured like so, and then they're coming out through these two posts here for the moment. And that's all there is to do in that stage, apart from one thing. They want us to test it. So I'm going to go get the chassis and we'll see what happens. Right, motor truth, let's see if they work. And they don't, because of my little modification that I've forgotten to flip. So that was a bit anticlimactic, wasn't it? So let's just turn them off again. Right, let's try this again. So now, because I've changed the switch over for my mod, hopefully these headlights will actually function this time. There we go. I will bring the bonnet over again. Let's just have a look at those. So they're working really well. Just place the bonnet in there again. And they are working really well, apart from this one, which seems to be catching on the bonnet. It might just be because the bonnet's not maybe in the right position at the moment. I might just push that over a second. Yeah, I think it's because the bonnet's not in the right place. So that's just causing that to stick. Right, and that's all there is to do in that stage. And they are working absolutely brilliant. If you're interested why the headlights didn't pop up, I will put a link in the description to where you can go find that little mod video. Basically what I've done, I've put a switch in that allows me to optionally have these headlights pop up or not, because there's a few times in the series where you'll see just the fog lights on and these headlights are down, and to be fair, I think KITT looks a little bit better with the headlights down. So that's what I've done, and that was the option I chose to do. So that as I say, will be in the description. Maybe you can pop along to see that if you're interested in that one. Right, moving on to issue 81. Again, just do a quick flick through the magazine. And again, still working on this front section. And you need the front scanner section. And we're doing the other fog lights. Is that right? I think we've done the first lot in issue 2. Yes, it was definitely issue 2 because I had a problem with mine. Mine was in German, and even the front balance was all plugged up, so it wasn't die cut properly. So we're going to end up with this at the moment, and we also need the cable for the fog lights from the car. Now, I already have the cable, and as some of you may have already noticed, the vigilant among you, I already have all my fog lights. Now, I've had all these for quite some time. The reason being is because FanHomes sent me a new number 2, I'm sure it was issue 2, that I had the problem with this part. It obviously just came with the fog lights still. So I opted to just place them in. So we won't be doing that on this stage. I'll just get the parts out. So these are all the parts we get. I must say I'm not exactly impressed with how scuffed these sections look, and as you can see, this one seems to even have some little ridges and dots on it. So that one might need to go back to FanHome and just ask them if they can replace that. But yeah, they are quite scuffed. They are plastic. But yeah, they're quite badly marked for what what we're paying for the model. Bit of quality control I think lacking there. Now, as I said, I do have the fog lights in there. However, you might be noticing that I'm missing that last little bit, which is this one here. Mainly because I think I dropped it off the workbench and lost it when I first started doing this. So we are going to kick off and do that one. And we are going to secure that in place with an AM screw. As you can see, there's quite a lot of AM screws in this one. Right, so we've got that one going in there. Just like that. So we've now got the both of them in there. Now, for the fog lights, I will just go through the motions. So we have the frame, we have the lens, and we have the back piece. So the lens is going to go in just like so. And then we've got this back piece here, and that's just going to go like that. Now they only fit in one way round, I believe. Yep, they do. That's just going to go in like so. And then we'll have 2 AP screws to go in there. So this is going to go in like so. And like so. So the fog light is looking just like that. You have to do that 3 more times and then secure them into the bumper with 2 more AM screws. Now, it does look like I'm actually missing an AM screw in that one, so I'll certainly replace that. What I will do though, I'm just going to take one of these out just to double check that they are, as I think, identical. Right, Personally, I can't see any difference between those at all. So I'm going to carry it on as I was and have those in place. So they're going to go in this way up. You know, I've also noticed that I've put this one in upside down. That's what happens when you skip ahead and think you're being clever. I can rectify that easy enough. And we can flip it over just like that. So it is the narrow section that sits at the top. Make sure that lines up. Yep. Now, I must say that is a bit of a backwards way of doing it, because having put those in previously, it is easier to put those in without that bit in place, especially when you want to get to this top screw up here. But anyway, we shall continue, and I will just add in that extra AM screw that's missing from there. I think that at the time I didn't have enough spares to put those in. I'll just make sure the walls are nice and tight. So that's all the fog lights in properly, like so. I'm just going to put those spare parts to one side. We're now going to be placing these parts in, and they're going to go just in here somehow. One in there, and they are marked actually left and right. One in there, and then we're going to flip those over and we're going to secure those in place with two of the BM screws. Although that can't be right because we've got BP screws. And just to prove it's not me going crazy, they have actually put BM screws there. So it's going to be BP screws, because we are going into plastic. Got one BP screw going in there. Now, so I am putting these pieces on just because I'm doing this video, but I will be contacting FanHome about the marks on them. So that's looking just like that. I need to grab this cable. Now there is a longer and a shorter end, so just work out which one of those is your longer and which one is your shorter. And it's basically going to go this way, so the long cable is on the left, short cable's on the right. And we're going to place those into the back of these lights here. So just pushing them all the way into those fog lights. Like so. And then the same for the right hand side. And they are holding themselves in quite well, so they're not going to fall out anytime soon. And that is all there is to do in that stage. Right, so I'm going to finish off this build pack with issue 82. Now, And as you can see, I've left the front up here because we're still going to be working on that front section. And by the time we've done it, we should have that. So we're putting the inner frame in place and doing a little bit more cable tidy. Right, so this is what we got. Quite a lot of plastic in this build pack. So there's plastic, 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 plastic. So all the parts you get in this one are all plastic. We've got some GM screws, some BP screws and some AM screws. So first thing we're going to do is grab the front section, and we're going to be trailing all these cables along and out this side, it looks like. So we're actually trailing it along this section here. And there's a couple of posts in here. You might just be able to see there's a couple of posts in there. We want it to run between those two posts. Or certainly that long green and white wire is going to run between those. And then we've got this short little bracket that's going to go across there. And we're going to secure that with 2 AM screws. Now, might be a little bit difficult to see. It's going to be difficult to do, I think. I'll just try and put that top one in loose for the moment, like that. Put the cable in, spin that little bracket over, and then we'll put another AM screw in there. So that's looking just like that. So you can see the cable is run along the front of there. Got that bracket in place there with 2 AM screws, and then the cables will just follow out this way for the moment. Now it looks like we're just going to grip these cables together. They've already tangled themselves together. So separate that out. All of these are just going to come out together. Looks like it's going to go just between those 2 posts there. And on the lower of the 2 posts, so we've got 2 posts here, and we've got 2 posts down here. We're going to have this bracket to hold all of those cables in place. And I'm going to use the same technique I did a minute ago, using 1 AM screw. Just to get that bracket partly in place. Just like that. And then we can put these other cables underneath, flip that into the right place, and then use another AM screw to secure it. And next we need this large section, and with the nose cone upside down, we've got this little section here, this little nub, and that's going to go like so. Just line that up like so, and let's say 4 GM screws will hold that in place. Let's get 1 on each side done. Now this red and black cable does go this, according to the instruction, it does go this side of that post. So I have followed that instruction. I'm hoping that wasn't a mistake. And that's number 3. And finally number 4, just going in there. Right, we now need to finish off with these 2 brackets and some BP screws. And they are going in here. I'm just going to check. They do have left and right on them. So this is the left side. They have a little couple of little pegs. So you've got 2 holes for the pegs and 2 holes for screws. So they're just going to sit like so. And that one's going to sit on there like so as well. As I said, 2 BP screws in each of those will hold those in place, like so. And that is all there is to do in that stage, and all there is in that build pack. Now, I do believe that this little section here does give you the point in which that can line up and mount onto there, which is certainly very, very exciting. I'm sure that is coming very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to give me a big thumbs up. Now, KITT is looking absolutely fantastic, and as you can see, working absolutely perfectly. One thing I did notice when mocking this up, I've mocked up the front bumper there, as you can see. This green and white cable that allows you to have the fog lights here, it was very short. So the long side I found to be the shortest when it came to coming out here. So I've managed to basically bend all the LEDs so that they're pointing to the left of the car, just to try and get a little bit extra length. The other problem I had is there's a little hole in the side of the frame here. Now, I've made a bit of an educated guess that that's where all the cables are going to come through, and we're going to be joining them up here in the wing. It wasn't coming as far through that hole as I thought it would. It happened to be wrapped around a bit of the lower part of the engine, so I've managed to put a bit of slack in that. I'm sure that it's going to come through into this wing, because this cable I don't think would ever reach inside the bulkhead. So that is something just to be sure of and check. So you might want to check your own cables as well, that they all do come out of this hole. They might not all have to come out of that hole, but I'd rather have the little bit of slack rather than having to take the floor pan out again. But that is all looking brilliant. I will just take the bonnet off, and as you can see here, there are no cables running along here, so they're all hidden behind here, which again also makes me think that that hole is for that purpose. And you can just close the lights down like that. They do stick a little bit, but I'm sure once the bonnet and the front bumper, etc., is all bolted in properly and fitting properly, it will be absolutely fine. Having said that, a lot of the time, you may remember I did a little bit of a modification, and if I flick this little magic switch under here, when I press the lights now, we won't get the pop-up headlights, and we just get the fog lights. Now, personally speaking, I think that's a much better look for KITT. However, I did still want the option for how to have the headlights pop up, so that's why I've put that little switch in, and I'll put a link in the description below where you can find that video. But KITT is looking absolutely fantastic. That's it for this month. I say month, it might actually be a bit sooner, because also we had such a delay on these build packs that I think the next build pack is already being prepared, and I'm probably going to get a notification that it's already being sent out. So that might come a little bit sooner than I think. You might notice over there in the corner, I've got something else for the DeLorean. So I've managed to get the white wall tyres for the DeLorean. I don't know that I'll necessarily put them on the car at some point. However, I have acquired all the parts for the hood box for that one, so I just wanted the white wall tyres as well. The thing I really don't want, I don't want the railway wheels or the railway tyres for that one. So that will be coming to the channel soon as well. I really do hope you liked the video. If you did, please remember to give me a thumbs up and a subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.